Watching the polls and our crossover to Germany today, we're focusing on a new friendship agreement signed between France and Germany this week. Now, the public show of solidarity between these two European giants comes at a crucial moment for the European Union, especially with the uncertainty of Brexit. There are also concerns that this will fuel anger of nationalists in those countries. But what does this new pact mean, and what implications are there, especially for African countries, if any? Let's get into some analysis from Germany. And William Glowcroft is political correspondent with our partners at DW. He joins me all the way from Germany. William, thanks for your time this afternoon. Now, what does this pact mean, and why was it even necessary in the first place?
So this friendship treaty between France and Germany is really an update to one signed in 1963, actually exactly 56 years ago to the day, between France and Germany that set forth Germany and France's post-war relations. Of course, most people know that France and Germany were bitter enemies all the way up through World War II. And this agreement takes the previous friendship agreement and looks towards the 21st century. It deals with cooperation on a whole number of levels: political, economic, financial and business, security aspects. One of the most interesting, perhaps, is Germany's role on the United Nations. As many people might know, France is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Germany is not, but wants to be. And Germany sees a stronger cooperation with France as its way to get onto the Security Council in a more permanent way, which could have far-reaching effects on all the decisions that the UN Security Council makes. So it's a very important, crucial time for the EU right now, with Brexit looming, the UK, the #2 economy in the EU, set to leave in just about 2 months, and other dangers to the EU that the French and Germans see as potential problems. So for them, this is a key time to reaffirm their friendship and their commitment to the European project.
And beyond what you've said, does this new pact or this renewed friendship address any specific problem within the EU and its geopolitics?
Right. Well, this new agreement was very broad. In fact, there were some critics who said it didn't go far enough, wasn't ambitious enough, wasn't concrete enough. Really spells out things that everyone already knows about French-German relations. But that said, they are looking to see this as a symbolic gesture towards the need for stronger cooperation and speaking in one voice as the European Union. And that one voice really can only come from France and Germany. Again, with the UK set to leave, that puts France from the #3 economic position to #2. Germany is, of course, the #1 economy in the EU. So they're really the only two countries in the EU that can provide that kind of leadership. And with the UK leaving, that puts a lot more of that burden to lead on Germany and France.
Well, that's pretty interesting. But let's bring it home here to Africa. Well, these two countries are so-called development partners for many African countries. Are there any implications for these countries, of course, including Ghana?
So as said, the agreement doesn't lay out a lot of specifics, doesn't list any specific countries, but as you just noted, France and Germany are heavily involved all around Africa in terms of foreign aid, relief work, even some military operations, cooperating with governments there to develop their own institutions, their own militaries, for example. And so an agreement like this is really going to be a challenge for Germany and France, who have very differing views on how they involve themselves in global affairs. You have France, which is more likely to involve itself, especially militarily, in crises around the world, especially in places around Africa. And Germany has always been much more reluctant to involve itself, especially militarily. So we'll have to see. It's still a lot is far from clear as to what exactly this friendship agreement is going to do for French-German relations and their presence around the world, especially in places like Africa, where as individual states, as individual nations, Germany and France already have many programs running.
Well, finally, before we go, William, has this been, how was it received, for example, in Germany?
So generally it was received very positively. Both countries have very strong relations. They're so strong, in fact, that many people forget that these two countries were bitter enemies for much of their histories. But that said, there are strong populist and anti-EU forces in both countries. Both Emmanuel Macron of France and Angela Merkel in Germany face a lot of backlash in trying to bring the EU closer together. And the German government itself is rather lukewarm on how much it wants to commit itself in terms of finances, especially, to making the EU stronger. So on paper and in media press release announcements, very strong words of commitment and friendship, but how this really plays out in real life over the next several years we'll all have to wait and see.
Thank you very much, William. William Glucroft is a political correspondent with our partners, the DW, helping us to understand and update our knowledge of geopolitics in Europe and, of course, how it affects African countries. You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty and Doapia.